His name is Rangi Te Aorere Paki, or Te Rangi Aorere Paki. He is the same as me. He is tūwharetoa. He is of Waikato and Ngaituhoi whakapapa.
I would have never imagined myself going to Alaska. For them, recognition is such a paramount thing, but not recognition from the thing of, hey, look at me. It's more of, hey, look at him. And on Maka's side, she's Raven descended, and so in order for me to be introduced to the iwi, I needed to be a part of Eagle Clan. Eagle iwi.
We just had our arms and kōrero wide open to our sister-in-law to Maka. Kātia kei te whānau, no mai haere mai ki tēnei paki here roki. It is the On Kaupapa Podcast. We have a treat for you today because we're doing something slightly different. We've invited my younger brother on to our On Kaupapa Podcast. His name is Rangi Te Aorere Paki, or Te Rangi Aorere Paki. He is the same as me. He is tūwharetoa. He is of Waikato and Ngaituhoi whakapapa. There we go, I've done your pepeha for you, so we can skip that and get straight into some interesting kōrero. He's going to be sharing a bit about the journey he's been on. Kaua noiho ko tana haere ki tā wāhi, he anō ko ana mahi anō hoki ki roto I te ao toi. Now, let our whānau know where you live right now.
Kia ora mai tātou. So currently I'm living in Alaska in the USA. Alaska is a massive state within the US, America, and it's beautiful, it's vast. I like to imagine it as if it's New Zealand on steroids.
I haven't been at Te Whānau, so I can't confirm this, but I find this very hard to believe. I do find this very, very hard to believe because I believe this is paradise. This is the prime lands, you know. Koe nei te tino o ngā wāhi. But one day I will get there and we will check it out. So you get to be in Alaska, but it wasn't like you just ended up there. I tūtaki atu koe ki tetehi wahine, anō tēnā whenua, he wahine iwi take ia. Tēnā kōrero mai, mō tōhoa tō kōrua tūtakihanga, te take noho ana koe ki Alaska.
Ai, toku hoa no he slingit tōna ko slingiting o tōna iwi. I tūtaki mai, we met in Hamilton and Tainui. Our friend Te Rāwhitiroa, Bosch, introduced us. And yeah, she's an amazing person, and I would have never imagined myself going to Alaska. But I think going to Alaska for my darling is a bit of a no-brainer. But although adapting to the Alaskan lifestyle has been different, to say the least. Like I said, it's like Aotearoa on steroids, but temperature differences are way different. Winter time, we've got maybe about 5 to 7 months of winter cold. Give you a little bit of context on the cold. A nice day would be -5, and then a cold day would be -30. Wow. And summertime's though complete polar opposite. Summertime it gets a little bit warmer, maybe up in the upper 20s, so 25. So you'll know that's summertime for us in Alaska, and the daylight extends to about 24 hours a day. So we've got 24 hours of daylight. So everyone's out doing things, enjoying the taiao over there. Hunting, fishing, all the beautiful things that we don't get to do too much of during winter time.
That is crazy. That is, and I would like to officially go to Alaska and confirm the conspiracy theory that you've just shared with everybody about it being like Aotearoa but on steroids. So we can confirm that whānau at another day and another time. Hewa, you know, adapting to Alaska, adapting to their culture, adapting to their taiao is a massive thing. And I know there's a protocol in place because guess what, at te whānau, you can't just marry in to the iwi over there. You actually have to go through a process, and I would like us as Te Ao Māori to think about this, right? Because my younger brother over here, he got married at Waihi and Turumakina and our wharepuni and Tāpeka, and we just had our arms wide open, haere mai, yes, get married. Yes, we didn't have like a trial or an audition or an adoption process as such. We just had our arms and korowai wide open to our sister-in-law Tamaka. He wano, a little bit different for their people, for their iwi take over there. This fellow over here actually had to go through an adoption process. And you're thinking, how ke te ahu o tēnei mea te whāngai ki reira? In order for Aorere to officially marry Maka, tell us about that process, because it wasn't an easy feat. He mea ahua ua ke tērā.
Yeah, well, it's actually, it's actually a really fascinating and quite beautiful process once I got the opportunity to sit and understand and listen to the kaumātua and the iwi and the hapu and why they carry these tikanga this way. And from what I've come to understand, they have their iwi structures, and their iwi structures are very intentionally formulated. So they have moiati, which are the two primary, I want to say, tipuna. Tipuna kotahi, ko raven tēnā, that's raven. And then the other opposite clan is eagle. Now these two tipuna, they have their descendants each, and within the descendancy, those of eagle descendant are not allowed to marry. So a bear descendant cannot marry a wolf descendant, for example. And on Maka's side, she's raven descendant. And so in order for me to be introduced to the iwi, I needed to be a part of eagle clan, eagle iwi, so the eagle moiety. And so I was fortunate enough to be plucked up by one of Maka's uncles, whom is on the eagle side, and he is of the wolf clan, iwi. And so he was quick to pluck me up and say, "All right, nāku tēnā, I'll adopt this young man into my hapu so that he can marry my niece." And the process itself was conducted within a potlatch, a ku'ich, and that process is about a 24-hour process on an easy day.
What does that entail? He hanga mahi o roto I tēnā kaupapa, te whāngai. Tā koe mahara nei, e harai te mea he mahi māma. You actually had to do a lot of different activities like fishing, hunting. Talk us through the whāngai process, because it didn't sound like it was easy.
Yeah, with the whāngai process, it's the process itself, it wasn't actually centralized around me. It was actually centralized around all the other aspects of their culture, through waiata preservation, tikanga preservation, looking after, showing all the kids what it looks like to be Tlingit. And my portion in that mahi is only the introduction into their hapu and the adoption process. For them, recognition is such a paramount thing, but not recognition from the thing of, hey, look at me. It's more of, hey, look at him. Anei, he tangata, he manuhiri kua tai mai. Here is our manuhiri. Let's honour him. Let's embrace him as one of our own. Hence this process of adoption. And with this potlatch in particular, it was more of a kawemate. And the kawemate process is for an opposite clan to honour their opposites. And so in this particular case, it was Maka's grandfather, I believe, that passed. And so my current iwi in Alaska, I wanted to honour Maka's hapu and their iwi a year later and just say, hey, e mihi ana kia koutou mō tēnei taonga, anei ngā taonga. And as a gift, they wanted to adopt me into their hapu, and so that they can take care of me while I'm there.
What is your pepeha over there?
My pepeha. I've actually been given a name, ko te hingoa hōtōku. So it's not just te rangi aorere, o rangi te aorere, it's also gich tak ish.
Say it again.
Gich tak ish.
Okay, I apologize if I butcher this. Do it again.
Gich
Gech
tak ish.
ish.
Gich tak ish. It's a place name.
Okay.
It's a particular island that's within the... This is pretty cool, actually, that they do this thing. This is a cool thing that I know that we can't do. So this is actually what the state of Alaska looks like. And so Maka's people are in this area over here. And then I believe Gechtak Ish is within these areas down here. I think. I will be corrected if I'm wrong. But yeah, it's their balance system is actually really beautiful.
I have so many questions. I do, twirling within myself. You know, you are tū wharetoa born and bred. You are of Waikato, you are of Tūhoi. Now you have taken on another iwi, another tikanga, another culture by being adopted into the Eagle clan. What is your process for yourself to be at peace with all of these elements, especially knowing that we were brought up a very specific way?
I think with our upbringing, it's actually geared, our upbringing / Māori culture, it's actually geared me up to fit in quite well. I hope, koroma. Because once you strip back a lot of our, I guess, tikanga protocols, it all comes down to the singular thing, which is manaakitanga. Manaakitanga of your guests, manaakitanga of your hapu, of your iwi. And so once you strip back those elements and you come back to the essence of things, it's the exact same for Slinga culture. It's just dressed differently. It's dressed in a way where, say for example, if you are of the same hapu as Maka, it is my responsibility to ensure that you and your whānau are taken care of, and vice versa. And something as well is that they follow a matriarchal lineage. So ko ngā wahine te mana. E ka tika.
I rongo koutou te rai te whānau, the woman are the rangatira.
Yeah,
Hey.
100%.
And how do you feel about that?
I feel great. It's good.
Are you okay in your masculinity?
100%. 100%. Yeah. And I think it's really, really good that they do it that way, because I think from my own personal, mātai, because they're more concerned about survival than they are about anything else. You've got a short window of where you can harvest kai, and so you can't be getting into fights with anybody, ne?
Got to work together.
Yeah, you got to work together. You got wolves to worry about. You got bears to worry about. You got all this kai to worry about. There's not a lot of time for warring. And
yeah. That's an actual thing, because we don't consider that at all here. We are not in competition with anything else in our environment here. Over there, you have wolves, you have bears, you have cliffs, you have snow, you have all of these obstacles. Ngā ara tiatia i nei ka tau ki mua i ngā tangata rerekē ai te ahua me te aronga. I'm going to backtrack a little bit, because I think there are some key things that we didn't quite touch on around the whāngai, the activities within the whāngai. You talked about the kawemate component and how you end up in a clan. But what were the activities, ngā mea i mahi a e koe, i roto i te rā mahi?
Yeah, so ko tōku mahi, he rita tonu ki te mahi e te marae. It was my responsibility to make sure that I bring kai, bring taonga.
What did the kai look like?
Simple. Salmon, hari ki te tiki kai. Salmon harvesting is pretty awesome, actually. I'll touch on that later. But te ho mai, hari mai kai, hari mai ngā waiata. Let everyone know who I am.
He hanga waiata he e koe.
Waiata, o tāua waiata karaua wiwi wawa, e pātōhau, i tū hoki ki te kawe ngā pepeha. Me tōku wai mari e hoki, i re rā mā me pāp, hei tū toko mai. hoake,
Yeah.
takina he haka. And I'm pretty sure they earned me a couple of brownie points. But the actual activity itself, I was clipped. So once I was called up by the kaumātua, Donald, I was placed in the middle of our iwi. Ka haria mai he blanket, he blanket. They wrap me in the blanket and they say, ka ki mai, he mokopuna tēnei no tēnei iwi nai. Ka homai te ingoa, kechta kish, they stomp it into the ground to make sure that now my name becomes a layer of earth that keeps the iwi standing straight.
Oh man, I just love being Indigenous, being Māori, because I can relate to this quite well. You know, we can as tu wharetoa, we can as Māori. And when I reflect on this kōrero now, because this happened a couple of years back now, you know, I think I'm seeing it with fresh new eyes as I've gotten older and appreciate these things, because koe nenga mea ka tūhono i a tātou ki a tātou ki te tai ao, ki te iwi ki a wai rānei. Yeah, so that it's really, really special. Very, very special. Would you say, you may not know this, or you may do, are you the first Māori to be adopted into a clan in Alaska?
That I know of. I know there are pockets of New Zealanders in Alaska, but I haven't heard of any Māori in Alaska. So there's a high chance that I am probably the first Māori adopted. However, in saying that, I have heard stories from kaumātua, from Alaska, from Tlingit territory, that there were a group of people roughly 2,000 years ago that came to the shores of Yakutat, te kāinga amaka, and the description, take it as you like, the description of these people were, they were on a double catamaran waka, they were huge, they had top knots, and their faces were tattooed. And if that doesn't fit the description of our tupuna, then I'm not too sure what does. But apparently, some of these tupuna stayed, and some carried on. And the ones that did stay helped to teach some of the kaumātua of Tlingit how to star navigate. So, he pito kōrero tēnā mai te te o ngā kaumātua. Yeah, as of recent times at least, I think I'm the first, but I wouldn't be surprised.
So a mixture of whakapapa possibly.
Possibly.
So you may have married your cousin.
I think 2,000 years might dilute it, bro.
Wow, that is powerful. I have heard stories of following the salmon there. You know, the journey of the salmon. And he wātona ka auheke mai te rā momoika ki tēnei whenua.
Yeah.
Nā reira ke reira hoki e rā hononga. How important is salmon to the people?
Crucial. There are, well, let me say this. Everything within the taiao is crucial. From the bears to the wolves, to the deers, to the elks, to the moose, to the salmon, to the herring. There are so many different, there's such a fine balance that's kept. And I think tangata whenua there understand this and stewards and also mokopuna of this process. And salmon particularly is their people's life, a lot of the people's lifeline, and not only just the people but also the ecosystem. And so their role that they play, moena kari te mohio, ka piki ngā awa. During that process, they're feeding the bears. The bears eat the carcasses. The carcasses are left in the trees, which feeds the bugs, the trees, the birds, and then and carries on from there. But the salmon itself, once they reach their taunga, they spawn and then they die. And so when they die, everything in the ecosystem is fed, and it keeps everything going, keeps everything ticking along.
Wow. You know, we hear this so much. We hear this often, the importance of salmon in Alaska. But when you explain why and the food that sustains the ecosystem, because to my understanding, it's very barren lands because of the weather, salmon is very, very important.
Yeah, well, you know, with Alaska, I wouldn't necessarily say it's barren. It's you know, it's a very rich green, full of kai place, but it's only within a short window.
Right.
There are places where you can get kai during winter, but good luck.
Well, he mena e kōrero āpiti tāu ki tērā wahanga. If you have anything to add to that part of your hikoi, and, you know, I think you've given us so much context of the lay of the land, the taiao, and some of the tikanga. What would you say are some of the more challenging tikanga things between tūwharetoa yourself as iwi Māori tūwharetoa and what you've seen over there?
That's a good question. In terms of slinga culture and adapting into that iwi, one of the biggest challenges for me, at least, I'm going to start maybe here, is te reo. You know, te reo, te mea tuatahi.
He uaua te reo, he rereke rawātu ki te reo Māori.
Yeah, he rereke, they, from what I've kind of come to learn, at least, and it may change as I learn more, but the hardest thing is that the parts of the mouth, so the parts of the aorere, the tongue, are more focused in the middle, back, and sides of the mouth, whereas the Māori language is more focused maybe in the middle, front, low half of the mouth. You know, ki konei. So e nei reo pene te e nā tumomoero o e ra reo. E ua ki te, it's very difficult to weave it into the following noises. And perhaps for me reading the language as well, there are 3 or 4 different types of X's, which is the sounds that I just made. And so kind of differentiating the differences of which one's which. But the language itself is very difficult. But something I've kind of really come to love about it is that it's a reflection of the taiao. When I just get the whakaronoi ki tō māua koroua, when our koroua said, you know, me mea ki te hea koe ki te ako te reo Māori, me hoki atu koe ki ngā maunga, ki ngā awa, ki ngā manu, etc., etc. The taiao. And when I heard their language for the first time, that came to mind. So the sounds that they make are a reflection of the diverse taiao that they have. So some of the noises, for example, is extremely similar to the guttural noises that a bear makes, to the howl or a cracking of, or how the winds pass through the forests, to how the glaciers crack and fracture.
That is mind-blowing.
Yeah. So these are all sounds and frequencies and vibrations that we don't have.
That's why it's so unfamiliar to our ears. Because our reo Māori is again a reflection of our taiao here.
Yeah.
So a lot of our te reo Māori sounds reflect our birds. They don't have the same birds we do. You know, it reflects the flow of the river here. Our rivers, you know, flow differently to the rivers over there. That is mind-blowing.
Yeah. And so when you hear old stories from their people about how closely in a relationship they are with their animals, I am not surprised whether they were communicating quite well together because they have the same frequencies of sound. And so that relationship is tight.
So the more you bond with the taiao there, the easier the language is for you because you get to understand it a lot better and where their sounds and their words come from the environment, which is very different to ours.
Yeah. I think, and for me right now is and I'm not going to say that I fully or understand the reo, you know, kei te ako tonu au I tēnā reo, and but it's more just really appreciating the relationship. So maybe that's one of the most difficult things that I've kind of come across thus far.
That's a really interesting point, Gaho. I te mea ka hare tātou ki ngā whenua o te moana nui ākiwa, he māma ki te tūhono ki e rare o te reo o Hawaii, te reo o ngā koki aereni o raroto, ngā te reo o Tahiti, hā moa, e rā mau te re katoa kei te tino rongo tonu i te reo Māori, te tata o ngā reo. Engari ka haere ki Alaska, the few times Maka, your wife, has taught me a few words, I always say to her, look, I'm not going to say because I don't want to butcher that word, because like the back, what was the word that you use?
Tēnā X.
There's like a
there's or actually no, ina tūmongoreo.
Those two, I just struggle, and she was like, just imagine that you're about to do a big spit and you're going to go
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I'm with you. Yeah, but just very different. Tino rereke. Mihi ana ki ana whakamārama. He paitirongo i era tauarotanga. Oka koki nane, we're going to move into another space that you've been working in. And toi in particular, he kaupapa nui te toi. Kua takawe atu e koe o mahi toi ki reira ki Alaska. You've taken your pukenga with you over there. First of all, tell us about the mahi toi that you do over there.
So I've gotten a little bit more involved with developing my relationship with Pounamu while I've been in Alaska. They as well have large Pounamu deposits there as well, and so I've been fortunate enough to get to know Pounamu while I've been there and carving Pounamu. And in addition to that, as well as developing a relationship with carving bone as well. But yeah, so the relationship with carving and learning more about toi started back in 2020 actually, where, like a lot of us, both here in Aotearoa and in the US, we experienced this the COVID-19. So within that time, I wasn't able to work, and so Maka started to work on jewellery and to help pay the bills. And so she started beading pelts to help pay our bills. And so after that, we made several earrings, and people snatched them up quite quickly. And we figured, there might actually be something to this. And so we kept going, and nā waira, Pounamu came into play, and I started playing with Pounamu. And so our little business, Moon Tour, was born.
What does that name represent?
Moon Tour. It's a play on Maka's last name and also her iwi. So she comes from the Moon House, and also, her hapu. She comes from the Moon House, and the tour at the end is a part of her last name, Montour, which is a French Canadian name from her father's side. So we put the two together, Moon Tour, ka puta mai.
So working with Pounamu in particular, obviously we are not new to Pounamu, but I don't think many of our listeners and people who are watching know that Pounamu exists in Alaska, and there's a lot of it, and it's untouched. Can you walk us through that? Why is that?
Yeah, so e ai ki te heo ngā kōrero ngā kaumātua, when they were migrating to Alaska, their tohunga instructed them not to touch Pounamu. I rongo I te mauri o te Pounamu, and I rāhuitia. And so, like a lot of us, there's a Maui amongst every group, and so one of them decided that they would play around and take the Pounamu with them. Ka pakaru mai te marangai, te āwha. And so ka kia ke te tohunga, nā wai I haututu I te Pounamu. Paul Fallon puts his hands up. And so ka mai tēnā wā, teira wātu ki nai nei, ka kore te iwi whakapātu ki te Pounamu. I have had some conversations with some kaumātua from there, and them understanding that we have a strong relationship with Pounamu, kei te pai. So thankfully, I'm quite fortunate to be allowed access to Pounamu while I'm there. And so that's kind of their relationship with Pounamu. And in saying that too, is that they have a stronger relationship with other materials, like bone, walrus, ivories, and te mea. Yeah.
Knowing that whakapapa and the reason why they don't work with Pounamu and being granted access to Pounamu because of our connection to Ngahue, tērā tipu nā tātou, how does that make you feel, knowing that you have been given the clear to work with Pounamu specifically in Alaska?
It's quite humbling there. It is actually rather humbling because I'm trying to put myself in a similar position where if we had manuhiri come to our whenua.
That's right.
And if we allowed them to do something that we would consider tapu.
That's right. Because that'll be the equivalent of allowing somebody to access obsidian over here and going, oh yeah, go on our maunga, go on Tongariro and collect some obsidian and work with it and make toi with it and te mea. So, if we flip that around, I wouldn't say that we would never do that. Hewa no, that would be something that would require a lot of consideration and intention from us as tūwharetoa, as kaitiaki of this particular taonga. Same with Te Arahura over in the South Island. And I think, there's a couple of stories of a group of manuhiri from overseas, I'm not going to say who, but they took a whole lot of pounamu and ended up in court over it. So that's also playing in my mind. So kei te rongo au te whakaute. There's just such a beautiful respect there for this to be available to you.
Yeah, and it's just, like I said, it's such a humbling feeling to know that I can do that. And in addition to that, is also them, te tūwhera hoki ngā ringaringa ki wetehi atu o ngā taonga. One of the things that they prize as well is copper, silversmithing. They actually have a lot of their taonga primarily, silver. Anei he taonga I homai taku hoa ki au e tohu ana I ngā uruhi I tōku hapu. But a lot of their work reflects, a lot of their work are primed in metalworking nowadays, and also traditionally as well.
This looks very similar to ngā mahi toi Māori, eh? Like the patterns are very similar to ours, like what you will find in the wharepuni with our whakairo. Very similar.
Yeah, as far as I've kind of come to learn and what Maka's grandmother describes them to be, is that their artwork, she explained it like it's an X-ray of the subject, and the subject being majority of the time being either e kararehe, so a wolf, bear, so on, and that X-ray is then taken from a 3-dimensional to a 2-dimensional, and so you see the two faces are not actually two faces, but they're the one and the same, but they've gone from this to this. And so, kind of similar to our whakairo, ko te whakairo ko te wairua o tō kiko.
Interdimensional being, you're seeing the whole picture, not just the physical picture. Right.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, it's kind of similar. It's an X-ray of somebody, so you're seeing the insides and the outsides. Kei te pera hoki te whakairo. Nā reira kei te rongo I te oritetanga, really, eh?
Yeah.
Wow. How have you merged the taha Māori and ngā iwi o tōhoa within the toi that you are producing? Because to my understanding, you do one component of it and she does the other component of it. So it's a merger of two cultures, really.
Yeah, nā pai tēnā pātai. I think for both of us is that we both view toi similarly. We both feel that there are the approach to toi is multifaceted. It's a spherical approach to our cultures. And so we believe in that the degree of the sphere that we've decided to take is more of the modern take. And so that means taking more of a compulsory approach to traditional values and views. Because for us, we see that there are people that are revitalizing the traditional elements of toi and the philosophies. And so the philosophies behind those our cultures. And so we can see that there are those that are taking that approach. So for us, we're thinking, me pēhea rawa te Hawaii ki hou I ngā whakaro o a mātou tipuna, anō nei hoki me pēhea hoki te tapiri. How do we add to that philosophy? Because we think our philosophies are based on the time in which they've been created, and we will eventually become tupuna as well. Eventually. And so what can we add to that toi? So we've started incorporating different mediums to the work. So in our case, pounamu into the singlet side. Different leathers. How do we move something from a traditional medium, pieces that are traditionally done on one medium to a different medium? How do we do that, and what would that look like? And so those are some of the things that we explore. And we try and marry them up in a way that we think, oh, what would our tupuna do if they had access to this? Or what our tupuna do if they had access to silver? So we play around with some of those things, and it's actually pretty cool because I have noticed since I started messing around with silver, I've seen other like-minded Māoris doing the same thing. You know, I've seen some beautiful silver work come out of Aotearoa. Silver and gold, and so I'm like, cool. My thought process is aligned with others as well. We're all taking different approaches to advance both Tlingit and Māori toi expression. Yeah.
What's been your favourite piece so far? I know you've got this one, which is the first piece you've ever made.
Yeah. My favorite piece so far. That's a good question. It's kind of a hard question to answer. Really,
that's all right. You can pick your favorite, and then the other ones won't know about you picking your favorite today because they may not hear that kōrero. Because ia mai toi has a mauri, has a wairua, has a oranga.
I don't know if this is kind of like a weird thing to say, but
say it. You're allowed to be weird.
My favorite piece is the one that I haven't made yet.
Oh, that is pretty weird.
Because I feel like my hinengaro is there are a lot of pieces that I want to create, but I feel at least that my skills are not quite up to par to making it yet.
Cool.
I have. I want to expand on more of the silver work that I've made, but then, it's just learning how, letting these things catch up to where the aspirations are. So I don't know if that's like I feel that's kind of a weird thing to say, but
it's a creative thing to say. It's such an artist thing to say e te whānau. It is, and I love that answer. Hua anō. Mō ngā whānau kāre anō kia tuhono ki o mahi toi, ki wā kōrua mahi toi. Where can they go to find your mahi toi?
Instagram would be the best avenue. So haere atu ki Moonture, Moonture, ka puta mai tā te ingoa ki reira. And on the website in our bio section, ke reira hoki the link he haere atu ki tō tau website ne. But I personally like in our I'm just being real, but in our pursuit of at least the social media aspect, Maka is our driving force there.
Yeah, she's pretty on.
She's pretty on. So, yeah,
She's got you.
Yeah, mate.
She's carrying both of you.
Yeah, I'm like hard out the just the muscle head. I just do all like the physical labor side of stuff, and she takes care of a lot of the social media aspects.
I'm just going to plug here for it. Ne? So for our local whānau here in Tūrangi, they want to see and connect to some of the mahi toi, ngā taonga ko waihangatia e aorere rau ko maka. You can go to here for it. Yeah, and it's there.
Yeah.
You might need to top them up though.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're kind of like on every time we come back to our old aroha bases, we bring some taonga back.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Bueno, kua rawe a tāua kōrero, and I can hear the merger of the two worlds, te ao Māori, te ao tūwharetoa me te ao e noho nei e tohua. Any last closing comments of the merger of the two worlds, and any further whakaro before we wrap it up for this podcast?
Yeah, I think I just want to like maybe expand a little on just my appreciation for the hapu back in Alaska that's taken me on, and just the appreciation around that, and the things that I've kind of learnt about that balance between iwi take and how they look after each other, and I feel like I'm learning a lot from them, and I also feel maybe that I also have some to offer as well in terms of our culture back there, and so I just wanted to honor that relationship, and honour our hapu and our iwi here in Aotearoa, and taku kite I te kaha o tō maua iwi. Ahawa koa taku noho tahiti atu ki Alaska, ki te tonu au I te kaha o te whawhai, kaha o te wera o te ngākau. The re-emergence of our mataora. For me, for someone that's been away in Alaska now for the past 7 years, I feel a lot of FOMO about that.
So much so you got your own puhoro.
Got my own pēha, my own puhoro. Came back for that for sure, but it's I can see again in the spherical sense of expanding our ao. I wish I could be more a part of that stuff, our movements here, but at the same time I'm also understanding that I have a lot to learn in Alaska as well, and so I just wanted to honour that.
Me ana kia koe tō tūhono mai ki tēnei pakihi roki me tō horai ngā kōrero. It can be very hard, especially if we're not developed in our masculinity to share everything. Eh? But I tēnei rā, you have shared exactly that, but you've got something else you want to say.
Oh yeah, te whakaro noa ki tēnā mea te masculinity. Ne? That's actually something interesting that I've really picked up over there. I like their approach to masculinity. Ne? Masculinity there is such a they're very gentle. Yeah. Te ngākau o te manaki, ne? And I think, because I think about our masculinity here, and I understand that men here are also gentle in a way, but I think culturally speaking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my experience in this, is that he maro te tū o te tāne, ko te tū kaha, ko te tū maro runga I te marae, ko te mahi haka, and amuria kei tēnā, ko te manaki, ko te tia ki te whānau, and there's that gentle element to that too. But like just kind of witnessing the masculinity that I've seen in Alaska, it's physicalized or it's manifested within how they are able to produce kai. And I see more of that in a communal sense, like more spread out, I suppose. It's like I think about Aorere, for example.
Dropping a name there, te whānau.
Thinking about Aorere, for example, there are Aoreres everywhere in Alaska. Just about every second man is a Aorere. They go out fishing, hunting, etc. for their whānau, for their hapu, kia kiki, their pātaka. Actually, I was fortunate enough to, in my work in dentistry, to meet this young man, 15 years old, just turned 15. He was sent to our dental office by his hapu to look after his oral care because he was in pain. But we looked after him, and I got to talking to him. He's from a small community, ko te ingoa Pākihi called Aorere, ki toko nei mōhio. And because it's such a small community, and they are in a very, very rural area of Alaska, they rely so heavily on their men to produce kai. This young man, 15 years old, is responsible for 4 families.
Wow.
4 families. It is his job to feed 4 families. So he has to go out 3-4 days at a time to hunt, to gather kai, and bring it back for 4 families.
That is crazy, and we have to understand, the landscape's completely different over there
100%.
to what we know here. And you've got wolves, you've got bears, you've got all those other competing elements. So that is a big weight on his shoulders. Te tama te kaumārima noiho ana tau.
Te kaumārima noiho ngā tau. Engari ke te kitea hoki, te nui o te aroha o ngā whānau ki aia. They, obviously, toothaches are not a fun thing.
Oh, and they're not a cheap thing either to fix, especially in Alaska, in America.
So they all put together to get him there, to get him healthy, to get him right, so that he can go back then and continue to look after for his whānaus.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
You've provided us a window into a world that many of our whānau here in Tūrangi, Taupo, Taumaru Nui, and our wider Tūwharetoa area will possibly never know, never see. And you've also provided a window into the merger of 2 cultures. Nā reira mihi nui ana ki a koe he pihanga iti tēnei ki te awe noho nei e koe. Kua rongo kōrero, engari kāre anō kia ki te akanohi he wā tōna me tai atu. Tō nui ki tōna nui hei whakanui i a kōrua ka mutu i tēnei tūhonotanga. He wānau te whānau, that is your On Kaupapa podcast. This fellow over here is definitely On Kaupapa, a big one, and hopefully you've enjoyed our kōrero today. Nā reira kia utonu mai, it's tūwharetoa on.